Speaking of which, let's talk about AI.
All right.
You've been both sort of positive and negative on the role of AI in the whole programming, software engineering experience. As it stands today, what do you think? What's your general view about AI? What is it effective at? What is it not so good at?
Okay, so my general view is it comes down to something that's pretty simple, which is that if you're doing something in which is very predictable, AI is really nice. When you're doing something that is just not predictable, AI is not very nice to use. If you're using anything that's more cutting edge, AI will not be using it, or AI won't be very good at doing stuff with it. Like it's not great at Zig, because Zig is just like, say, less documented. It's really great at TypeScript. I think there's a lot of interesting things that are going to come down through AI that I think a lot of people aren't really prepared for or thinking through. TJ is kind of the genesis of this idea, but the idea that I think there's going to be a lot of kind of market manipulation, if you will, through AI, meaning like, hey, you want to research, say, best woodworking tools. Well, someone's going to be buying an ad spot. Someone's going to be buying premium training data. Right? They're the ones that get the big boosts in the LLMs, but LLMs don't really have to market as an advertisement because it's not really directly an advertisement. They just had a more premium spot, per se, in the training data, a little bit extra learning to it. Sure. It's like there's a lot of things about AI that I fear upcoming.
Yeah.
A lot of it just comes down to people not learning or making the trade-off where productivity is the only thing that matters. And I don't think productivity is the only thing that matters. If you want to build something complex and difficult, productivity is not the only thing. You actually are going to have to do deep learning and kind of pursue it beyond the basics. And so I see AI as kind of like this really cool thing. It feels like a magic trick. I remember the first time I used it, I got early access to GitHub Copilot. In fact, Nat Fridman saw my Twitch clip of me asking GitHub for it, and he sent me early access himself. It was awesome. And when I used it, it predicted an if statement correct, and my mind was just absolutely blown because I had nothing before then, and now it's just like first time ever. And I just remember thinking, man, this is going to change programming so much. And then the more I used it, the more for me personally, I kept introducing bugs. And I couldn't figure out why. And what I realized is that I kind of developed, I wasn't co-piloting well. I was autopiloting much better. And my ability to read code versus my ability to critically think and write code, they're definitely different sets of skill levels. I don't consider as well when I just read code as opposed to when I write code. And so I struggled there.
I do think that's a skill set.
Yeah, skill issue for sure.
Skill issue. For people who are not aware, that's like a hashtag thing, sometimes used mockingly. In this case, there's like several layers, mockingly, but also seriously.
Yeah.
Meaning like the criticism is grounded in the fact that you lack the skill versus some kind of fundamental truth. Yes. Yeah. I think that that's the reason I use actually Copilot Cursor a lot, is for developing the skill of editing AI. So I can just learn how to do that better and better. Because I think as I do that better and better, I start to utilize AI better. At this time, it is a bit of a boilerplate code thing, but you can do out of the box kind of novel design decisions or tricky design decisions from scratch, but fill out stuff using AI and then just learn the skill of modifying. I personally it's more fun to program with AI. Even when I delete a lot of the code, it's more fun. It's less lonely. It's what I imagine like pair programming to be. But I've never done it. But it just feels like that friction that you get when you're like staring at an empty thing is not there. Like empty function, empty class. It's just more fun, less lonely. And I do think that a lot of the easier type of coding, it really helps with, like interacting with APIs, basic things that I would usually have to look up to Stack Overflow for. It's just really fast at that. Like, as example, just interacting with the YouTube API. The YouTube API documentation is not very good. And you can just load it all in there. and ask it to generate a set of functions that access the API, do all kinds of read and write operations, and it figures it all out. And then you could you do have to read. You have to read and check everything. And you start to develop the skill of understanding where it misinterpreted the task. So what is that skill? I don't even know. You have to kind of be empathic about what the AI is, what its limitations are. A lot of the times that has to do with prompt engineering. You have to at the same time understand what the AI is aware of. Like, what did you actually give it as data to be able to generate the code? A lot of times we don't realize that we're not giving it enough information.
Yeah.
So you have to actually, okay, all right. You have to be empathic. Be like, okay, these are the code, the files it's aware of. This is the specifics of the question you asked it. You have to imagine you're an intern that doesn't know anything else. Oftentimes we want the AI to figure out the things that's left unspoken, but you can't know those things. You have to specify those things. And so you have to actually be much more deliberate and rigorous in the things you specify, is to spell it out. And so I just have this sea of prompts that I have saved up, and I'm building these library of different templates for prompts, and it's a mess. And I'm sure there's a lot of developers that have this similar kind of mess. So a lot of it has to do long term with the tooling that's going to improve that. One, the systems are going to get much more intelligent. Well, you don't need the nuance. And two, there's going to be the tooling that allows you to specify those things and load it in correctly and give all the context that the system needs in order to make the good decisions. And maybe the system asks you follow-up questions. Wait, here's things you didn't make clear, all that kind of stuff. A lot of that has to do with the interface, with the actual design of the tools, like we said with Cursor. It's going to keep getting better and better and better. So my sense is developers in general should be learning this to see, to not be left behind, to see how that can be used to as a superpower to boost their productivity, their effectiveness, their joy of programming, versus be seen as a competitor to them or something like that. So, but for me already, it's been a big boost to productivity. If you measure the actual how quickly you're able to get a thing done, it's been a big and measured not across minutes and hours, but days also. Sometimes there's things I have to do that are not that important that I'll just out of procrastination will push off.
Yeah.
And AI helps me actually get it done. Because that thing, the empty page, like I mentioned before, it helps me write the thing, get it done, get it tested, ship the thing. Maybe it's just because it's just less lonely to work with an AI. I don't know. I don't know if any of that made sense, but
it all made perfect sense. I really do like that phrase, it makes it less lonely. I think there's something to that that's kind of interesting, having just some level of interaction that's not just like an LSP autocomplete.
Yeah.
Having something that's actually a little bit more than just that, where it actually is kind of thinking through and you can see a different thought and you're like, oh, wow, that's a way different approach than I would have taken. Hey, that's kind of cool. I like these kind of things. And the thing is, I'm not like a AI negative person. I can see why people really, really like it. I just haven't, every time I used Copilot from when Nat gave me the access all the way up until about 6 months ago. That's how I used it for quite some time. And I really did enjoy the things I used out of it. It just it kind of did the opposite for me. I felt like I was more reviewing than writing. And I felt like I was more kind of just letting things slide, where I just didn't really think too heavily about stuff. And I wasn't as engaged. And so I'm like, okay, so something's kind of wrong here. And that's just a me personal thing. So I recognize that is not how someone should approach these things. That's not a good reason for why you should or should not use AI. I just don't think that that's right, because I could probably correct that and figure out a better way to do it. I've been meaning to have another AI round. And so I've been thinking about maybe I just need to spend 2 weeks in Cursor and just fully embrace what does it mean to be somebody like this, and God, what can I do with this these new powers, have they improved to the point where they're actually good? And I mean, for me, because like a lot of the decisions I make, a lot of the little functions I'm writing, it's not because I'm trying to write this function to solve this problem. It's because I'm writing these functions or this set, not just to solve this problem, but because I know in about another 2,000 lines of code of building all these other things, I'm going to need to start doing this next activity. So it's like I'm trying to like really try to chess move myself into the exact things that as I let things go faster, I kind of fall apart on that chess move.
Mhm.
And again, skill issues for on my behalf. And I mean it in the truest sense of the word, where it's like I'm making a critique because I don't use it well enough.
The better you are at programming, I don't know if this is a general rule, this is my anecdotal data, the better you are at programming, the less you want to use the AI. The more it gets in the way. Like the good programmers...
Fair enough as far as I can tell.
So like the more sort of beginner programmers are much more happy to use AI. You know, when I use AI, it's for basic, like, for just like, I don't know if there's a better term. It's not boilerplate, but it's like pretty easy programming.
Yeah.
And that kind of programming is much easier to do. Like the sort of the 10X, not to use the meme, sort of programmers that I know that are ultra productive and brilliant people, they hate AI. They're like, this is nowhere close to what's needed. So that there's something to that. I still think they should be using AI just for the learning.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get smarter, it's going to get better, and it's the same thing. It's like when you super optimize NeoVim or super optimize Emacs, you may not discover the new things that are in the pipeline. So it's always good to be sort of training in that way.
Let me ask you a question here, just kind of from my understanding. You talked about this idea that you have all these kind of LLM kind of prompts, all like this big backlog of messy LLM prompts that you kind of have these templates for that you can do various actions. You have these strategies of making it self-explain itself and then do the right thing, right? Like you have, as far as I can tell, that's really built into a lot of people. Well, then you make this phrase where like, but then at some point the interface is going to get better and maybe it can do a lot of these things better where I won't need that. Then my question is, well, is anyone actually falling behind for not using AI then? Because if the interface is going to change so greatly that all of your habits need to fundamentally change and it will be able to clarify and make all those statements, have I actually fallen behind at all? Or will the next gen like actually just be so different from the current one that it's kind of like, yeah, you're over there like actually doing punch card AI right now. I'm going to come in at compiler time AI. So different that it's like, what's a punch card?
So obviously, open question. It's a fascinating one. I personally think yes, you're falling behind. Not you, but if you're not,
could be me.
If you're not playing with it, you're falling behind, because the thing I'm doing with the prompts is you're learning, you're building up like this intuition about how AI works. You're understanding like what is its strengths and weaknesses, not even the current version, but the next version and so on. Like what does it mean to teach an AI system about the world? Like what kind of information does it need to make effective decisions? I think that does transfer to smarter and smarter models. You'll need to make less rigorous and specific and detailed instructions over time, but you still have to have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a skill of almost empathy with an AI system, because it doesn't know you know what it's missing? It's missing like common sense. It's missing long-term memory. A lot of things when we talk to other humans, they have a basic common sense about reality. And AI systems often lack that kind of common sense. And they also don't remember things. So you have to like realize there's a constant blank slate happening. So it's almost like just a skill of talking to an AI system that I'm training. And by having to write all those prompts and communicating back and forth to understand what kind of prompts work better or not, you build up that intuition. And also just the skill of reading somebody else's code. Maybe for people who work on large teams, that's a skill that's already developed. For me, not so much. So learning how to modify the code that somebody else written is a real skill. And also the other thing you mentioned, which is like considering another perspective on a piece of code, is really nice, but it is also a skill to understand, okay, this is what you did. There's a skill to asking a question about that code that's been generated such that you can have a conversation about the approach that was taken. I think there's just a lot of subtle little skills involved in a cooperative endeavor to code. Kind of like if there was a real skill issue between you and Tej when you guys did the video of Two Idiots, One Keyboard, right? People should go watch that video where like you guys obviously sucked at it.
Yeah. Co-using.
That was pretty cool, what you guys did, which is controlling one NeoVim interface from two different keyboards.
Yeah. And then we each get an allowance of certain characters or motions we could perform.
Yeah. And so you both had to like communicate together. That's a real skill. I'm sure you can get super efficient with that.
Yeah.
But it just takes time to learn that kind of thing. So yeah, I think there's some value to it, but I think there's a learning curve.
I do want one thing to be pretty clear is that I actually use AI quite a bit. I just don't use it for programming. And so one thing I've been trying to get it to is to be able to have like a long interview or understand what Twitch chat is saying and become Twitch chat and be able to speak as if it is Twitch chat. Try to like learn how to prompt it in different ways. And so I think those things for me are just really fun. I tried to get it to learn how to play tower defense. I made a tower defense game in Zig and then made it play tower defense and then played Claude 3.5 against OpenAI. Claude 3.5 would do better during the daytimes, and OpenAI did better during the nighttimes. I don't know why. I have no idea what was going on there, but just one would just start winning and the other one would start losing. It was just very strange. And so it's just this, I'm learning to prompt well, but I'm learning to prompt in a very different axis. I just don't find it very useful yet in programming.
And I should also say that I'm using it in every walk of life, in every context. I use that same kind of exploration about prompts and so on. I'm using and learning. I think it legit is a whole field in itself.
Yeah,
prompt engineering and how to interact with AI systems. I think it's worth the investment. Can you actually speak to that? Because I saw you're basically pulling from Twitch chat and having an LLM speak. I didn't realize. I thought you're not reading the exact chat messages.
Yeah,
you're doing some kind of summarization.
Yeah. So what I try to go through I end up making like 8 queries off to OpenAI where it's just like the first thing is like I have it like a default personality. Mm-hmm. Hey, you're Randall, the manager. You're a software engineering manager. Kind of explain their position, what they like, what they don't like, and then be like, these are the list of thoughts you have in your head. Yeah. And you need to talk to this person and ask them a question. Like,
this is amazing.
Give me 10 of these responses that you think are probably thoughts that you have and you want to ask.
Yeah.
Like make it kind of give you a list and then be like, okay, then reprompt and be like, hey, you're Randall. You're this. You have these 10 questions before you, and now you need to select one of them and reword it in a way that sounds more like you, the engineering manager, and so you're like, I'm constantly trying to make it like iterate on itself as opposed to just like one-shotting it. And I found if I iterate too much, it becomes like it loses it like loses what it was originally trying to ask. If I don't do it enough, and it's just too degenerate from Twitch chat. And so it's like, I have a lot of improvement to do with this idea.
Just to clarify, you're feeding in Twitch chat. These are the thoughts. You're a manager. These are the thoughts you have in your head. Pick out some of the most profound thoughts.
Effectively, it's like depending on what I want it to do. I'm trying to work on a better system still.
Kind of brilliant.
And so it's like, how can I give voice to Twitch chat? Can I make it so that I can create adversarial characters against Twitch chat or for Twitch chat? Can I incorporate YouTube, all that kind of stuff? And like, how do you describe to an LLM to role play into its position? And so, just thinking through those kind of things. So maybe I am having some prompt skills, but just, it's just not in the coding world yet.
Sure.
One day I'll get there.
I saw that you were having playing with different voices. There was like a sexy voice.
That started off as a French voice, and it turns out 11 Labs just cannot do a French lady. And when you do multilingual French lady, she starts talking. It's like, what?
I tuned into one of your streams.
What is this?
And there's just this lady like in a sexualized way.
It became too funny. And so we call her not French Stormy Daniels.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I want to go back to the AI and some of the aspects.
Sure.
And so like my big gripe with AI has nothing to do with its capabilities. It's exactly capable as it should be capable because that's what people programmed it as. The things that I really dislike is there's a whole group of people that are just like, the end is nigh. AI is here. You just need to stop programming. Mm-hmm. Like I cannot tell you, even on like, you mentioned Peter Levels earlier, he made some sort of tweet and one of the person's responses was, yeah, no one in this, like in 2025 or whatever, should be acquiring hard skills. You should rely on everything for the AI effectively. And it's just like, these are really damning pieces of advice for young people. Like, young people are being told that you should never become an expert in anything. You should always offload. And the problem is that anyone worth any of their salt will tell you that AI, though can produce code, is going to get it wrong in a huge number of cases. And as the code becomes bigger or more complex or more input, it's going to just start kind of sloshing back and forth between bugs. And so if you don't have those hard skills and you're not ultimately the driver at the end of the day, like, you're going to really find some hard times, and your ability to progress will be directly bound to how good the LLMs are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you believe that the LLMs will be vastly superior to humans in the next year, maybe that's a good bet. But if they aren't, then your skill ceiling is bound to whatever they are. And even beyond that, there's just a level of information problem, which is like, can the thing actually navigate larger, like, do we even have enough compute power to be able to solve things at this real scale? And even if we did, if everybody started using it right now, do we even have the compute power for everybody to use it right now? There's like a lot of kind of bounding questions. There's privacy concerns. And I just don't want people to make the immediate, or what appears to be the obvious choice, where you don't need hard skills, you don't need these things. Our life is already going to be, we just need to only think creatively. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think these hard skills are going to be around for quite some time, even with a massive improvement in the AI. Like, you're going to really be needed to step in regularly for quite some time, as far as I can tell.
But I also think, even on top of that, just even acquiring the hard skills, or whether that means programming from scratch, for example, in the context of programming, that's going to make you better at steering the AI.
Mm-hmm.
Not just correcting the AI, but steering the AI. I think there is some kind of, if you know how a computer works, you can program Python better. It's maybe counterintuitive, but you can, if you know the low-level abstractions, like some intuition around that, you can steer the high-level abstractions better.
Yeah.
That just seems to be the case. Unless, of course, AI becomes like truly super intelligent, like many levels above, but it's very unlikely in the short term. And in the long term, it's still good as it gets better and better and better to be able to steer, to ride the wave of the improvement.
Yeah, I'm on that team very much so.
A lot of people have written to me. I think a lot of developers, programmers are really concerned about the future of their profession in the context of quickly improving AI systems. So do you think AI will eventually replace programmers?
The hard part about that phrase is use the term eventually.
Yeah.
Meaning, do I think in 5 years, 10 years, 100 years? Like, what does that term actually mean? I think at some point, if we were able to scale, if all things continue at the current rate of improvement, there does come a point where programming as a hard skill does become unnecessary, right? There, at some eventual point, way, way down the road. Yes, I don't know what that point looks like. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't even attempt to make predictions about that, but there are still some like leaps and bounds we need to make. Even just like societally, like there's plenty of companies that don't even allow you to use AI, right? Like that, there's just practical problems that exist. So that's like a question I just try not to answer in the direct sense. There will come a day, if humanity continues and all things continue in a good, positive direction, where a lot of skills will go out the window due to immense computing systems. So yeah, I'll give you that one. But it's just like, if I don't think it has anything in the near term. There's been no computer improvement up to this date that did not result in more jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. We should say that I think it depends how you define programming also, because, when the community moves from assembly to C, from C to, I don't know, Python and JavaScript, like that's evolution that's really painful for a lot of people who are used to programming that lower level language. So there's going to be a continuous evolution, and maybe that means with AI, there's going to be more and more evolution towards natural language as part of the tool chain, like being able to learn how to write proper prompts. Yeah, that might, because natural language is still a language. And in the long term, it's possible that a large percentage of programming is natural language. There are probably still going to be some percentage just not. That's going to be extremely structured language.
Right now, I don't think we are anywhere near natural language being possible because it's ambiguous. And I think what we'll end up seeing as people push really hard into this, you're going to see some sort of like pseudo-lang, which is going to be a language for AIs in which you prompt, which is going to be less ambiguous, right? People keep striving towards the less ambiguous state. And at that point, you're just programming yet another evolution into a higher order language. And perhaps that is a future in which people will have a more terse language. I'm just not sure how much more terse it can get. Yeah, I mean, all I see is that if you say natural language can be used in the pipeline, you've just made that many more people can become programmers, which means that much more software will eventually be created, which means there's that much more software that will need to be maintained, and it just becomes a real big snowballing effect.
But, there's just people who are programmers who are worried about their jobs.
Yeah.
Not a complete replacement, but maybe a rapid evolution of what it means to be a programmer. Like you mentioned, if natural language becomes a way that you can communicate, you can program, that means the pool of people who can get programming jobs changes rapidly. So they're really concerned.
And to some extent, right? Because no matter how much we want to say how good AI is, there comes a point where there exists a bug, there exists a large piece of software in which to describe the change requires just like pages and pages of description to the point where it is significantly just faster or easier for someone to just whip something out. Like there's definitely a balance there. It's not like a perfect trade-off. And so I still don't, I think people need to quit worrying and think about how they can integrate it and try, like prove it to themselves. Do they actually make themselves irrelevant? And if you truly make yourself irrelevant, I would challenge you that you're already like, you're just doing something that was just slightly too complicated to automate. Like if you're only writing just straight up CRUD apps from back end to front end and like simple table displays, like, yeah, maybe we just couldn't quite automate that away. And now we just have something that can just do that a little bit better. So now that's automated away. But that's not really programming. That's almost like building Legos at that point, where the design's already set. You just simply have to move piece from bag into correct position.
Yeah. Is there something you recommend how a developer or programmer could avoid a situation where AI can automate them away?
I think that the bigger the project you can manage, the bigger the thing you can build, the more understanding both down and up the stack you can go, the more valuable you become. Because if you understand how to build something in the front end, okay, well now you kick off some LLM task of some sort that's going to go off and make a change to the front end. Okay, while it's doing that, you can go and kick off something in the CLI tool. You can go kick off something somewhere else. And as these things come back with results, you can review the results, make sure it's the way you want it, change it, commit it, go to the next. Like you only become more, as you said in the end, more productive if we reach this state where it's truly able to do that.
And I think there is like a skill to working together with AI, which is why I'm kind of excited to watch you keep trying to do it.
Yeah.
It's like we don't know how it fits exactly, but it feels like AI should be a boost to productivity. And I definitely think it's a boost to just the joy of programming. I think there's a lot of people, yeah, it's a job, but it's also a source of meaning, a source of joy. Like programming is fun. You're creating something cool. And also potentially that a lot of people use.
There's this one thing that just really frustrates me, and this is kind of going into the Devin category, which is that I want an intern that cares.
Yeah.
You don't get that out of an LLM. It does not care. Meaning that I don't want it just to make a UI for me that displays these icons like I asked. I want it to care. I want it to think about it. I want it to present to me and me be like, oh, yeah, that's great. And then me to make changes. And then later on, it's like, actually, you know what? I really rethought about this. And actually, it'd be way better if we change, like it doesn't actually care about the craft, but when you work with an intern or you work with somebody else, they care. When they factor something, they actually go over and go, yeah, this is actually kind of bad. I'm going to come back to that. They finish this. They go back over here and they make this even better, right? They like actually care about the thing itself. It's a completely different experience. I just want something that also cares, that wants to make the thing better, not just simply accomplish the task. And I know I'm asking way too much. That's not, now we're getting into like Blade Runner level AI. I just want something it just feels like I'm missing that, where it's just like, it will complete the task to whatever level it understood what I was prompting, but it doesn't actually care about it.
I mean, there's so many aspects to caring, but sort of the trivial version of that is a kind of restlessness where you want to keep improving. And I think that is very much AI could do.
Yeah.
Where it constantly just asks itself, can I make this better? And if it keeps doing that, it probably is going to take it to some ridiculous place. So actually, it's also knowing when to stop.
Yeah.
I think developing something you can call taste, which is like trying, working extremely hard, constantly improving until it just feels right. This is it. And I think that is a thing that AI is not good at. It was just like, yes, this is it.
Yeah. I've iterated 3 times and 3 was
that's it.
Yeah.
We're now there. And that, I think ultimately that is what humans are amazing at, which is like knowing when something is right. Like, this is it. This is, especially as you understand, as you develop taste in the particular industry, in the particular context, application, knowing like, this is it. Yeah. The rounded corners on this button, that's exactly that. That's beautiful. So it's just a sense of beauty, a sense of function and efficiency and so on. Yeah. But that, humans could do almost like supervision of AI systems in that context.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've ranted about Devin, just full of rage.
I mean, first off, the people that run Devin are extremely nice. I want that to be understood. I don't have some sort of upsetness against them or anything like that. Second, Devin is just it's kind of like the full package when it comes to programming. So it's going to have, you're going to give it a task and a repo, and it's going to go through. It's going to try to understand the repo and the task, make the change to the repo by exploring it, then actually make a commit to GitHub and explain what it did so that you can have so hopefully you have this whole offline thing, which is the other part of this AI part that I actually really like, where it's just like, go fix this thing. Then I can just go and unbroken fix this one thing and come back and go, okay, good enough, merge, boom. I want that kind of running, being able to complete things. I think the ideal solution is that you can start giving it small bugs and it goes and fixes these bugs, and you can just come back to these backlog tickets that no one ever does, and it actually starts going through these backlog tickets, and it's actually a really amazing experience. So I love the idea, right? I think we can all agree that sounds great.
Yeah.
But every time I've done it, and I've asked it for many, and I try to keep narrowing down the problems. The more narrow the problem, the better it does. So if I'm like, just add one singular icon, and when it gets clicked, I want you to do this, just console click me, like just at least create me an SVG and place it so it's nicely placed. The more narrow the task, the more likely it's to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a certain level of specifying where you specify too much, it just like can't do it. If you specify too little, it just does weird things. So it's kind of like this very kind of fun, unique way you have to play the balance game. But so far, every time I do these things, I always end up going, gosh, you know what? I should just get better at Tailwind and write it myself. Because I always go back and I just rewrite it. And then it's just like, dang it, what am I saving at the end? I feel like I'm not saving anything yet. And it's just like this, I want it so bad. Like, I actually want AI to be great because then I can really go fast. I mean, I can go amazing fast, but then I always just go, gosh, I should just learn Tailwind myself to the nth degree and just go fast.
Yeah, we should also mention that debugging, this might be intuitive or counterintuitive, AI is really bad at.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the hardest. It actually makes you realize how special humans are and how difficult the task of debugging is. Obviously, for trivial debugging, maybe you can find bugs, but like, that is the real art of programming. is finding bugs, logical bugs, like extremely complicated, rare bugs, edge cases.
Mm-hmm.
AI can assist, but man, the hard ones require so much context, so much experience, so much intuition from, again, operating in a fog full of uncertainty. It's hard.
Yeah.
Of course, AI could maybe create like logs and do traces and do some kind of load in a huge amount of data that humans can't.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that just means it can be a better assistant in debugging versus the actual lead debugger.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great if they could. I mean, the more it can do that, the better, right? Because as far as I can tell, I mean, correct me where I'm wrong on this, current state debugging is really, it looks at the code, it looks at the bug problem, and just kind of tries to text predict where it's most likely accurate, and then just tries to fix that spot. And so it's like, it's likely this spot. You said admin panel, it's slightly off. This. It's probably this location, which could actually be a really great way to do search, right? Let me do semantic searching. Point to me where this is, because maybe that is a really great way to navigate large code bases. Is like smart, intelligent search, as opposed to trying to make it do the thing. Ask it to just help you do the thing in like pinpointing problems. I don't know. I'd love to see more of that, because that's for me is like the exciting part. And there's this really great article by creator or maintainer of curl. It's the I in LLM stands for intelligence. And he writes curl and maintains curl. Curl has been inundated with security problems and all this, and it's all from LLMs being like, oh, I found a security flaw. Here's the security flaw, details it out in the code. And he's just like, okay, how did you reproduce that? Show me, because if you look at the code right here, that's actually an impossible situation you're speaking of. And it's just like going in these circles, and security right now is being inundated. These bug bounty programs are being inundated by LLM submitted responses, because they can't actually, analyze the code beyond just like basic text prediction. Oh, this is a stir copy. Stir copy is commonly referred, blah, 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 boom, there you go. Here's the bug. And it's just like, no, that's actually impossible, because the if statement right beforehand leaves the function if the string is too long. So it's like, we don't even run into this case. It's impossible what you're saying. So debugging is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that for me would be the big, if it can solve that, not solve that, but improve that, that would be huge, whether it's agents or just LLMs integrated into IDEs.
I think there's this whole idea, I call it a denial of attention. I think there's an entire attack vector that's going to be happening. We're using LLMs to generate fake bug reports, fake all these things, to just actually effectively to demotivate and hurt open source maintainers. Polykill was the first bug that kind of had this experience, is this denial of attention, where a active malicious maintainer just hounded the owner. Mm-hmm. And then a white knight came out and offered to buy some stuff from under them. And when they bought it, they actually replaced it with a malicious piece of code and then used it. So there's like this whole security world that's developing around using these in a very aggressive format.
I mean, it's a fascinating world we're entering into, but I do agree with you that human developers will be a huge part of that world. Yeah. This is not, the job might evolve, but it's going to be there. If I can, I didn't really look at this page. I thought it would be cool to go over with you. This is, again, the
Stack Overflow, my favorite.
Stack Overflow developer survey, talking about their sentiment and usage of AI systems. The general sentiment of yes, 61% say yes, they use it, and 25% say no, don't plan to. So majority use it, majority have a favorable sentiment over it, favorable or very favorable or indifferent. That's like, looks like over 90%.
That's really surprising that many people just have no plan in looking into AI. Like, as much as I don't like using it for coding, I hope one day I can use it more, right? And so it's like, to me, I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm just surprised that people are that, I guess, obstinate for it. Obviously, the second one, the AI tool sentiment, it must be only the users who responded
yes
to the top two of that first one, just given the amount of respondents.
I wonder if no and don't plan to are people who have tried it and quickly built up the intuition like, this really sucks.
Yeah.
So, we could be like experienced programmers. They're like, no, this is not making me more productive. 81% agree that increasing productivity is the biggest benefit that the developers identify for AI tools. Okay, so this is what are the benefits: increase productivity, speed up learning, greater efficiency, improve accuracy in coding, make workload more manageable, improve collaboration. Where's the fun? Increased fun. I would say that's like number one for me.
Maybe speed up learning is like a subcategory of fun, right? If you're able to learn more and be able to become better, to me that sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's different because like productivity is part of fun too. There is just a lightness. Maybe improved collaboration, all of these elements for sure.
There's my time using Copilot. There was certainly a level of wonder that would happen for quite some time, where it's just amazing what it can do.
Yeah,
I'm just super impressed by what it can do, even though I don't use it. Like, it's amazing to me that we have something that can even get that close.
In terms of accuracy of AI tools, only 2.7% highly trust.
I would say that you have to be very green to think that you should highly trust an AI output.
Yeah.
You should be very skeptical.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand. Probably somewhat distrust. Highly distrust seems aggressive.
It does seem a little like you should definitely be in the somewhat. Like you should always assume that there's something wrong, and then from there you can go and challenge it.
And then estimation of whether AI can handle complex tasks. Most people don't think it can handle complex tasks. I mean, it seems like people have a good sense of what it's able to handle and not.
I would argue that people don't have a good grasp of what complex is in programming.
Sure, yeah.
If you say write me quicksort, some people think quicksort's super complex.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that that's actually probably the simplest thing you could ask an AI to do, right? Things that are so well documented. It's going to do a great job at that.
Yeah, probably high-level design decisions, which people don't even use AI for right now. I guess agents are supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. That's probably the most difficult thing, or the most impactful thing. Well, the most difficult thing is finding bugs.
Yeah.
AI tools next year, writing code, and so on.
Now, this one, the ethics part, I'm actually super curious your take on the ethics. Will we see Europe laying down some new regulations?
Oh, boy.
What about artists, right? Yeah. What about people that are really, because the difference between coding and artists is very, very simple. If you gave me a sheet of paper, I could draw you a crab.
Mm-hmm.
You go, that's a crab.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with coding. It's like, it's right or it's wrong. There's not a variation of interpretation for what a crab is. It's like, no, that statement's just, you cannot make that statement. It's very bounded in what it can express. And I could see why artists, like that's a very frustrating point. And then who gets rewarded for all that? Obviously, and then there's like the whole thing with coding and licenses. How much of it is GPL licenses do you think they've scraped and used as training data? GPL forces open source.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that one? Like, that means your model might need to be open source. Like, OpenAI may have to get forced open all their previous stuff if there's any hint of GPL.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That's a really weird one. Because most of these models, I think, are training on data they don't technically have the rights to be training on.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
There's an unspoken, it's a real Wild West.
Because, like, you could imagine that, what happened if, I always use Europe because they tend to have, like, maybe the most consumer protection laws out there. You could imagine what happened if a law came down that said that if you used a model that produced GPL potential code, you have to open source. Like, how many companies are going to be like, oh my gosh, right? Like, you have 1 year to get rid of all code that was generated that's potentially GPL sourced from a model. Like, you could imagine just the sheer panic that's going to happen. It'd be a fire sale of code.